Okay, so continuing from the previous video. So as I said before, there were structural components in place that instituted racism via Jim Crow laws and segregation. Additionally, Jay discussed how his family actively protected him, or actively protected him from racism, even if that wasn't necessarily the intention, by making sure that he did not have to work under anyone as a subordinate as a young black male. And regarding community, he was surrounded by people who were just like him, and not just by color, but also with regards to upbringing, belief system, goals, ideals, etc. And so he felt he felt a part of the community. And one of the things that really helped this was also his involvement and inclusion within the church, something that he says is still very important to his life right now, as it gives us a sense of not only belonging but purpose. Okay, now according to Piaget's theory of cognitive development, adolescence is actually the formal operation stage that occurs between the ages of 11 to 16. And at this point, individuals are able to perform hypothetical deductive reasoning. And by that, it means the ability to consider abstract concepts, to think logically, and also consider different outcomes and variables based on one's actions. Individuals are also able to solve complex problems, and again, consider consequences for their actions. And this is also what is known to kind of think like a grown-up. The thing is, though, adolescents still lack the ability to understand the consequences for their actions. So even though they're able to identify outcomes for certain behaviors, they don't always understand what that entails. So three very important components to Piaget's cognitive development theory are schemas, accommodations, and assimilations. And so in reference to Jay, a schema is basically, or they're the internal ideas that we hold about the world, how we see the world, how we navigate within the world. And for Jay, the shift in racial boundaries that he encountered in the Army was very profound for him, because, again, he was able to actually kind of challenge the notion or the idea that, Jim Crow and segregation was just how things were. And so actually seeing someone of a different race actually listen to and adhere to the commands or the instructions of a person of color like himself was very, very profound. Accommodations is the changings of our schema based on new information and experiences. And so after Jay encountered this environment where equality, even though racism still existed within the Army, equality was a way of life, he began to think of himself as equal and began to consider what his life could look like, possibilities for equality. And as a result, even though this didn't occur within his adolescent development, he later went on to join the Army Reserves after coming home from Vietnam, and became a drill sergeant himself, because he really, really liked the sense of confidence that was instilled in him by his time actually in Vietnam. And lastly, assimilation is basically adopting new information to fit our schemas. So this kind of goes along with his later involvement with the Army and Army Reserves as a drill sergeant. He actually took these same principles and adopted him for the rest of his throughout the rest of his life. Actually seeking beyond like, for instance, the job roles that were seemingly available to him. He took a lot of chances throughout his life to develop and better his career, and they eventually paid off. But it was this one moment that actually showed him that, he was able to do things. So with Erikson's the limitations with this theory. Erikson, of course, had assumptions regarding development, and had basically lacked. He didn't necessarily consider the role that that racism and other social constructs played for ethnic and minority groups. Again, development for these groups is not necessarily linear, but actually encounters a lot of different or external stressors. The lack of definition regarding what exactly the age time frame or limit was for these stages was a criticism that has actually been applied to Erikson for actually since the very beginning of this theory. And lastly, there are instances where he contradicts when development actually ends. According to Erikson, adolescence actually marks the end of identity development, but in other instances, he discusses how one's identity continues to evolve and develop throughout adulthood. And that's it. Thank you.